Completed in 1840, the Houmas House historic mansion was acclaimed as one of the finest homes in the South. This Greek Revival-style home, seated on over 38 acres of extraordinary gardens, was added to over time in different architectural styles. Sadly, by the late 1990s, the mansion had fallen into a state of disrepair, but in 2003, New Orleans businessman Kevin Kelly purchased it and began its restoration. In this episode of At Home with Houmas House, discover the elegance of this unusual building, complete with spiraling main staircase and extravagant gardens, as you catch a glimpse of what Viking guests can encounter on our included tour of Houmas House. This historic landmark is included on Viking's 2 Lower Mississippi itineraries, New Orleans and Southern Charms, and Heart of the Delta. Originally named Houmas, O-U-M-A-S, after the local Indians, the property on which the mansion stands today was purchased in 1810 by Revolutionary War hero Wade Hampton, who built the Greek Revival mansion and started growing sugarcane. Later, it was purchased by a series of owners, including John Burnside, a wealthy Irish-American philanthropist. Modified many times over the years, eventually the mansion's name was modified to Houmas House, the current name. Sadly, by the turn of the century, the property had fallen into some disrepair. In this state, it was put up for sale and purchased by Kevin Kelly, the current owner, who has been lovingly restoring the house and many acres of gardens and adding relevant art ever since. For this episode, Kevin will highlight some of his favorite art pieces in the house and share with you how they relate to the property.
Houmas House Estate and Gardens gets its name from the Houmas Indians that are native Indians to this area and had lived here since about 1400. In the late 1680s, French settlers visited and stayed with these Indians. And in their diaries, they made sketches of what the Indians looked like. And the reason I collect these items is because of these. This one was made in 1728 from the diaries and was made by Meissen, porcelain makers. It has the falcon, it has a cornucopia of flowers and fruit. You'll notice the Indian chief, she was a female Indian chief, is sitting on an alligator. You will notice on the Indian chief, she's wearing a skirt of Perique tobacco. It's a tobacco that's grown only in a 20-mile area near here, and it's a very intense, strong tobacco. And very small percentages of it are used in cigarettes today. But all the Indians wore the skirts just like that. It's just an absolutely beautiful piece, and it became, because of this piece, it became the allegorical figure of America, which is so important because on most maps from the early 1700s and continuing through the 1800s, she, with the alligator, was the allegorical figure, and you just see it every place. This particular clock here has the same Houmas Indian, but this clock was made in 1795, and it's an extremely rare clock. There are only 6 of these, and I searched for 4 years in order to find this clock, and I finally found it in London on a trip. And I walked in and I said, let's just see if they happen to have this clock. And I was quite surprised when I saw it, so I just absolutely had to have it. But these are made by Chelsea House, and there are numerous different figures of the Houmas Indians. You'll notice this dark mahogany wooden sculpture, and the gentleman who carved this actually became the first African-American mayor of a city in the United States, and that city is Donaldsonville, which is just across the river. Dominique Canova carved the same Indian chief over here, and he's quite well known.
Kevin Kelly is passionate about restoring Houmas House, but it is also a real home for him, so he has worked to grow the collection with relevant pieces that he loves. Each piece tells a story, and like all collectors, the discovery of a piece is part of the adventure.
Of my entire collection of Houmas items, which numbers about 200 different pieces, this is my absolute favorite. She was done in 1795. She was done by a Portuguese porcelain maker. As you can see, as I turn it, you can see the name here. And I'm horrible on speaking other languages, but it's Cerâmica das Devasas. And she's just an absolutely beautiful piece. She was done all in one pour, and she's just absolutely magnificent. I didn't know there was such a piece. I was in Houston, Texas on my travels, and I walked into a store that didn't have very many nice things. And I almost turned around and walked out, and a friend of mine said, "Oh my God, Kevin, your item of your lifetime is here." And I said, "What do you mean?" And I thought he was joking. And he said, "Look to the left." And when I looked to the left, I saw her. And you'll notice the Perique tobacco skirt, the way the feathers were. I instantly knew she was a Houmas Indian. Houmas Estate is unique in that we show the decorative arts of the area. And though no one else in the world probably collects Houmas Indians, all of the pieces were made by the finest artisans at the time. And I just think she's a magnificent piece, and she's about 4.5 feet tall, so it's an incredible size for a porcelain. The Houmas Indians were a very friendly tribe. When the Frenchmen came here, there was no fighting. They fell in love with each other, married, had children. Some of the Houmas Indians went back to France. Some of the Frenchmen stayed here, and they just acclimated very, very well. I think the main reason all of the artisans use the Houmas Indians is because of the Diaries of LaSalle, and she became the allegorical figure.
A visit to Houmas House not only enables you to explore the lush and exotic acres of gardens and wonderful home, but also to bear witness to the extensive collection of art and artifacts in the home.
This piece is a sculpture of Abraham Lincoln created by Gutzon Borglum, who built Mount Rushmore. This was going to be the next item built on Mount Rushmore as a tribute to Abraham Lincoln. It was created as a fundraising piece. So this was a model that would be given to donors who donated money for the creation of this monument. Sadly, Gutzon Borglum died about 2 or 3 years after this was created, and this monument was never built. For Christmas, on this little bench right here, I put a little Santa Claus there, or the elf on the shelf, or things like that. So it becomes a very memorable item to the house. And when people tour the house, this is one of the items that they remember most. John Burnside is my favorite owner of Houmas House. I would like to say we're similar in a lot of ways. That's probably a wish and a dream, because I don't think I would be nearly as interesting as John Burnside. And this is my favorite room, and this is called the Burnside Parlor. You'll notice it's a billiard room, and he was the first owner to put a billiard table at Houmas House. And people are quite surprised to see a billiard table in a plantation house, but it was popular at the time. In 1858, it was a little bit smaller table. This particular table is from 1878, and it's an original Brunswick table. And it's very heavy. It weighs about 2,800 pounds. But what's intriguing to me about this room and John Burnside is his lifestyle. He and the other plantation owners in the area had a racetrack not far from here, and they would gamble heavily at that racetrack. And he bet one of his plantations one time at the racetrack, and it was racing thoroughbreds, and it was Armand Plantation. And Armand Plantation, which is lost now, was famous for its gardens, and they were famously known as Le Petit Versailles Gardens, and they were quite exotic. And he maintained, even though he didn't build the gardens, he maintained them for very, very many years, and they were absolutely beautiful. So in the bet at the thoroughbred racehorses, he bet Armand Plantation, which was a grand plantation, and he lost it. And he was very upset because he didn't like to lose. So then he decided he had to get even. So there was another race coming up within the year, and he went to Ireland and bought the best racehorse he could find. It was called Black Gold, and he secretly brought the horse back to Houmas House but he didn't want any of his neighbors to know that he had this great horse. So he stopped entertaining for a year, and he had the horse in here, and he moved the billiard table out, and he kept his racehorse in this room for 4 months to get it acclimated. And every night at 3 a.m. in the morning, he would take the horse out and run it on the levee to get it totally acclimated, and it was the finest horse in the world at the time. But no one else knew it. He nicknamed the horse something else so that no one would know it was Black Gold. So he went to the race, and at that race, he bet Houmas House, as well as several others of his plantations at the race. Well, of course, his horse won, and he won 13 plantations to end up owning 16 plantations between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and a total of 400,000 acres of land. The colonnade on the house was added to the house in 1828, and it kind of signifies the era of the house. And these murals were completed in 1828 by the nuns of Ursuline Convent. There's every type of needle stitching and cross stitching and carpet making. There are little silver beads and gold beads in these. The frames were made by Prudence Millard, who owned furniture making stores on Canal Street in New Orleans. He actually made the bed upstairs, but he actually made these frames. These are wonderful items to me and very memorable to me, because I bought the house in 2003, and when I bought the house I had to furnish the house. It cost a fortune. I didn't have any extra money hanging around, but right after I bought the house I wanted to buy these from the antique store where I had seen them. And just before Christmas, one of my favorite antique shops opened up, and they hadn't had a sale since Hurricane Katrina hit, so they went about 4 months without a sale. And I went there, and as I walked in the door, the owner came up to me and said, "I wish you would buy those pair of needle points that the Ursuline nuns had." And I said, "You still have those?" He says, "Yeah, I'll make you a very special deal." So it's hard for me to turn down a good deal. So he had dropped the price drastically, and I decided to buy them, and they were my Christmas present to myself in 2005, so that we could all forget about Hurricane Katrina. And I think they're a wonderful piece in here, and people love seeing it because so many people's grandparents or moms needle pointed and things, and these are just two of the finest needle points there are. I bought this painting about 1995, I guess, something like that. And first I just love this frame. It's cattails for flower. And I had never seen a cattail frame before. And after I saw the frame, I started admiring the painting. And it's a beautiful garden scene. Now the artist is a Newcomb College artist. Newcomb College is a school of art for women in New Orleans. And I just loved it. It was very impressionistic, and it was one of my favorite paintings. And then I buy Houmas House 7 or 8 years later, and when I decided I was going to live here, I just wanted this painting to be here. So my theme throughout the gardens is cattail flowers all around, kind of because of this picture frame. So the day I'm moving in, I'm carrying my favorite painting in myself up the stairs. As I'm carrying up the stairs, the painting itself is towards you, and the back canvas is towards me. I had never looked at the back of the canvas before. And as I'm carrying the painting up the stairway, I'm reading in the back, and it says, Burnside Place, Courtyard Gardens, 1891. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is a painting of the gardens of John Burnside, who's my favorite owner of Houmas House. It was a painting of his gardens in New Orleans, and it was just meant to be that I would return the painting here and have the connection. But who would have known that I would have had a painting from this whole era of John Burnside. But there are so many things that have connected me to John Burnside and Houmas House. It was sort of very much meant to be. I live in this house. It's a part of my life. In some ways, it kind of controls me. I don't control it. I know I was always connected to plantations, but I didn't realize so many other people were. And it's nice that they feel attached, because if they are attached, these houses will last, and there'll be other people like me who will buy these and restore them and keep them going. And I think it's important to our history to always have these places. There are only 13 houses left between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and in 1850 there were 489 plantations. There's very few left. We need to protect the ones we have.